lay it down here. Morning guys, so we are going to do a foam rolling one. I promised this before and I never got around to it, so we're going to do it today. It's just something different rather than just the stretching. Stretching is important to keep yourself mobile, but if you start to get really tight and start to get, if you're doing a lot of running, which a lot of these are, and a lot of the 10,000 steps per day and things like that, then it could be getting time to start doing a little bit of manual therapy. And if you can't get to the physios and get your usual person gives you rubs and things like that, like we can't at the moment, a foam roller is a great way to do it. Now, a foam roller is basically just a tube. Some of them are thick, it's just a cylindrical tube. Some of them are smooth, some of them, like this one, have little dots all over them. If you wonder what they're for, it's basically just, it's like digging into the muscle with a knuckle, like the physio would do. I'm actually a bit stiff around the neck today, so you can do this multiple times per week. When I first got into foam rolling back, I think it was 10 years ago or something, when I first came across it and started to do it, I didn't realise how tight it was until I started to do it. And I had a smooth, just foam roller, and it was excruciating to do certain parts, the likes of my quads, and especially coming close to the AP band and places like that. So yeah, I learned a lot about keeping myself fresh in other ways and not just stretching. And I was really flexible back then because of the kickboxing. So we're stretching, we tend to start with the top down. With the foam rolling, we're going to start from the bottom up. So we're going to start down around the calves. So all you're going to do is you're going to sit on the floor, you're going to get the foam roller under your calf and you work up to the length that you can do. So you can do it in sections. You don't need to do much with the foam roller. Sometimes people spend a little bit too much on it and it takes up too much of their session. If you were doing this before you would start your training session, you would add it in before the mobility work. So basically when we start the warm up at the start, if you took 5 minutes before that to foam roll, you would free yourself up that little bit more for going into your session, and then when we did the mobility work and went on into it, you'd be freer in your session. You will see things online where you see people putting both legs on it and doing things like this here, just rolling themselves and all. To me, that's pointless because you're not getting in enough. It'd be like the difference between a physio getting the thumbs and doing this here and somebody just doing this here and rubbing you. It's not getting in enough because you flattened out the surface too much, and the idea of it is that it's digging in to get into those places. Calves and places like that, pecs and up around the pec. Obviously if you're female you're not going to be doing the whole pec because for obvious reasons, so you're going to work from sort of up around the shoulder area, which I'll show you that as well. But you can use a tennis ball, or same with the calf. At times the foam roller will just not be enough eventually, and you start using either a tennis ball or a sliotar or a cricket ball or something that you can get wee physio balls, lacrosse balls, that'll dig in that a little bit more. But for now, this is what we're going to do. So you get it, you elevate yourself, you put one foot on the lower side for stability, you elevate yourself slightly, and then you just roll. So what I'm trying to do here is get my butt off the ground very slightly and then roll out that calf from bottom to top. If you have long legs, you mightn't be able to do it because I don't want you ending up in a position where it feels like you're way down here because you're cranking your shoulder and then trying to drag yourself back. It should be a smooth roll. So whatever the distance is, and do this on a hard surface, not a carpeted surface. It works far better for digging in. What I'm also doing here is as I roll, I'm turning my foot one direction and then turning my foot the other direction. So I'm facing it to the window, then facing it to the camera, facing it to the window, facing it to the camera. And all I'm doing that for is so that I can get into the sides of that muscle as well. So it's not just that I'm digging in to the same point. So that's one side done. I'm going to change the other calf. Other foot goes up from here to balance. I'll elevate very slightly and then I start to roll from there. So it should feel comfortable. The muscle that you're rolling out won't feel comfortable, but the actual movement of sliding back and forward should feel comfortable. So if I started too far forward and I started that roll and I ended up way down here, that's not comfortable on me. So at times when you're rolling, you might need to pull the foam roller back towards you, reset, and just do this here. But you want that little bit of elevation just so that you're going to get into, and that'll do. I'm very tactile already. I'm going to put it just behind the knee, up very slightly, so I'm not on the point of the behind that knee. You can do that and just do a little bit on that if you want. But realistically, the muscles crossing it, you're getting the muscles crossing it here. You're going to get the hamstrings here, so as they cross over. So same again, from here, I'm just going down and back up. Once I do a couple on this here, I'm going to start turning that foot to get, I'm going to stay on one side pointing towards the window this time. Calf only has two muscles, gastrocnemius and soleus. So that's the reason I was able to go back and forward. The hamstring is 3. And I'm going to turn to the outside. I'm going to reset because I'm starting to slide that wee bit. I'm going to go to the outside here. And that one leads right up. And so what you might find whenever you start doing this is that one part of your leg will be tighter than the other part. So it mightn't be, oh, I have tight hamstrings anymore. It'll be, geez, the hamstrings on the outside of my leg is really tight. And usually you'll find people that where maybe the hamstring or the quad is connected to the IT band. So it's not that your IT band's tight, because your IT band is like is basically like a fibrous sheath. You know what I mean? It's like, if it was any thicker, you'd be bulletproof. That's how tight or how hard that is. So it's not that it's tight, it's that the muscles connected around it are tight. So if you feel like you're really tight here, it's probably that hamstring leading to the outside is tight, or your quad leading to the outside is tight. So you might need to put more focus on those. So with chain size, I'm going to do that. As I'm speaking through this, I'm not going to name out every muscle individually. I'm going to say quad and hamstring. This is about very much you want to hear an anatomy lesson, because it's boring as hell. But if you want Vastus medialis and things like that, but I don't think you want. So straight down the middle, then I'm going to reset, just because we're sliding a bit. Turn my toe towards the camera. I'm going to get that internal hamstring. So you have 3 muscles. This one's leading up to the inside. And again, I'm going about 6 times. That's really what I'm doing here. So down and up, down and up, down and up, about 5 or 6. And that's it. And then move on. You're not trying to spend half an hour of a physio session here. You're trying to do this more than just once a week, so that you're leaving yourself fresh. And what I can tell you now from doing this here is that my left hamstring leading up the outside of the IT band is not as tight as my right, because I felt more in that right than I did in the left. Good, that's that done. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to come round onto my front. I'm going to do the same with my quad. Your quad is 4, because that's the reason it's called a quadricep, because there's 4 muscles in it that are attaching them through it. Again, we're not going to name them out, but we are going to try and target them by going flat first, straight down, and then I'm going to rotate slightly to the inside, and then I'm going to come right over onto my side, to the outside, which I know before I do it, because I haven't foam rolled them long enough, is going to be tight, because it always is with me. So I'm going to start at the top of the knee. This knee is now out to the side. I'm on my forearms to get that elevation. The difference between the hamstring and the quad is that with the hamstring, you're trying to hold yourself up with your hands. Sometimes you can't get enough pressure on it because of that, and if you're not strong enough to hold yourself up. With the quad, you can get all the pressure in the world, because I'm supporting here, so I can push myself up now, and straight away, when I lift that toe, everything's on that quad. So when I roll down, roll back up, roll down, roll back up, down around my knee, that is tight. And you might find a point as well when you're doing this. So that's tight. I haven't done this enough, so I haven't. And I'm paying the price for it now. Internal is a little bit trickier, because what we're trying to do now is get coming up here into that inner thigh, still being pushing on that quad. So what you need to do is you need to angle the foam roller slightly on the way that your leg is going to go. So when I get down now, I'm going to put that leg out to the side. I'm going to get it down on the other side of that knee, so that I can now get down into my hip and then come back up to the inside. So my toes, I'm on the sort of point of my toe, turn to the side. If you find that the foam roller isn't twisted enough, just turn it a little bit more. If you find that it's too much, turn it back again. So that's not too bad. Usually I would be a little bit tighter in the vastus. That's the teardrop muscle you would see in bodybuilders that lead around the knee. But that's not too bad, so I can move on. And what I'm moving on to now is the outside of the same quad. So that's flat in my quad, that's the inner part of my quad. Now I'm going to do the outer muscle. Unless things have changed very badly, judging by how tight the front was, especially here, down around the knee, this is going to be tight. So what you do with this is I'm coming onto my side, and I'm not going to be fully flat on it. So I'm not here, because fully flat, you're right on that IT band. And we're not trying to roll out our IT band, we're trying to roll out the muscle that attaches to it here. So I did my hamstring by turning my toe this way, and I'm going to do the same thing. When I get up round now, I'm going to aim for the muscle here, rather than right on my side. So when I get up, get to the outside of the knee, I bring this foot here for balance. This is kind of like Pilates or yoga, guys, to get yourself in this position. So basically all I'm doing is right on my side. Unless you really want to roll it with all your weight here, which I don't, because straight away I can feel that. See it doing it. I'm going to take pressure by bringing my foot here. I elevate, turn that small toe into the floor, and I'm going to roll down, back up. So I'm going to do half, and then I'm going to do my other half. What I mean by that is my leg's too long, I'm not going to stretch myself the full way. One more. And that's tight. If you start doing things like this, you'll realise at times where you're kind of like, oh, my knee's tight and I don't know why, and I'm getting a pull in my back and I don't know why. Whenever you start using a foam roller, you'll realise why. And this is why I always recommend people to go to physios if they have issues, because they're going to dig into where the issue is rather than you trying to stretch out where you think it is. So I'm doing the lower half now, so I'm going from here up into my hip. And that's not as bad as down around some tighter, kind of the lower part of my quad. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come on up, and there's a point above your hip, your TFL, your tensor fasciae latae, that comes round the side. And this roller is going to drop into it. So I get to here, and it just drops into that hip. So there's a gap then, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn my torso this way slightly into it, so that I can just get right onto that. Because at times that does get tight, and it leads from your lower back round into that hip flexor, and if it's tight, at times you can get pulls in your lower back or pulls in your hip flexor, and you feel like your hip's tight, but it's actually this little bugger is tight. And then I'm going to come round onto the front, and I'm going to stay in the same point because I'm going to get right onto that hip flexor then. I'll be able to get a wee bit further on that. That hip flexor's a little bit tight, not too bad. The TFL is a little bit tight, but not too bad. So, I'll just get a little bit more. Now, that's that. So I'm going to change to my other side. So I'm going to start with that quad again, down the flat, opposite leg this time, so I've turned my body over so that I can get into it. Bring this foot up the front here. I'm going to put this just above my knee on the muscle, so you're not on your knee joint. Never roll a joint out of that there. You're rolling the muscle, not the joint. On my forearms, I elevate the toe, and then I'm starting. So already, I can't get down far enough because I left this leg too far forward. So I'm going to reset. I'm going to bring this leg down a wee bit so that I can roll back and forward. And that leg's not as tight. So my right hamstring on the outside was tight. My right quad on the outside and the flat was tight. So I need to work on those areas. Good. So I'm going to change this now to get the inside. I'm going to angle that off at the angle that my leg's going to be going. You might find maybe you're not flexible enough to get the inside because of the flatness, which basically means you might need to elevate this onto something in order to do it. So if you have a small sort of chest of drawers or something like that here that you can put it up onto, you get your leg, it can be a wee bit easier. And then I'm going to get that. Again, we reset this leg on the other side because I'm not getting down far enough. And that's not overly bad. I'm going to bring myself up onto here, just to get that little teardrop muscle that I was saying to you about. Not too bad. You will see what the outside break is. So again, I'm going to start just above the knee. I'm going to bring this foot across for support. I'm on my forearms, so right up here, my forearm elevation, up onto the side. Then I turn my small toe into the floor because I'm not trying to roll my AT band, I'm trying to roll the muscle on that AT band, the quad, and that's tight. And like I said on the other side, you may find a certain point that feels like, Jesus, I should have put my MyZone on for this, because my heart rate is through the roof doing this. I have a point here now, I'm right on that point. And what you can do is when you're doing your 6 rolls, if you find somewhere that's really tight in your quad, what you can do is you can do 6 rolls over the full thing, and then do 6, what I'm going to do now, right on it, short. And then do 6 long again, over the full thing. Tight. So I need to do more foam rolling. It's something I have been doing since we've been in lockdown basically, and I'm paying the price for it now because I've never used it this tight. So again, I'm going to lead on up onto that TFL, onto the tensor fasciae latae, and then I'm going to roll around onto the front into that hip flexor also. So I'm going to get myself up, and I know where the point is, so that's the reason I have it up here. I'm just going to drop into it. I'm getting onto my side, but if you don't, just put it kind of on your hip bone, and then roll yourself down, and you'll feel it drop into like a wee gap, just right slightly above your hip. Once you're on that there, just here, small rolls. And if you're used to this, or your foam roller is too thick and you're not getting nothing out of it, you can use that tennis ball, or the golf ball, or the slitter, or the lacrosse ball, or the fuzzy ball, whatever you have access to. That's a wee bit, but not too much. Now I'm going to come round onto my hip flexor, do the same thing, staying on that point. Now, shins, if you do a lot of running, you can do the shins. I don't tend to do them because I don't do a lot of running. But the likes of Maria or any of the guys doing the cycling or any that are doing a lot of running, you can do your shins. And basically the same thing. Get it elevated, put pressure on it, push it down now. You can get right onto the side slightly. You're pushing down with the leg into it in order to work it. Again, with the amount of impact we do in the classes, do no harm. Now, this the light on that tap. No, no, it's this window. We're about to close this. Always aware that I mightn't really see anything on this here because the light's shining in the window. That looks a wee bit brighter. We're going to do the glutes now. So the glutes, What you're going to do is we're going to sit on it, and then you are going to lean slightly onto your side. Starting out, you might just be able to do this here, forward and back. The thing about the foam roller, again, compared to other things, is that with the foam roller, because of the flat surface and the glute is a large muscle that has a lot of attachment points. So basically, where your hip capsule comes round, if you ever seen the back of a skeleton, those flat panels, that sort of semicircle that leads round, you have attachment points there that go all the way around that there, and they can get tight. So the foam roller things can be just not enough, and you may really need to get that tennis ball out into it. But what I want you to do as well is, once you do that there, if you find, oh, that's nothing, I'm not getting nothing out of that, plant this foot, put this foot up onto your knee, because what that does is that straight away opens up that hip capsule, and now I can get into certain parts. I can twist myself around now, and especially up here at the top of mine, I find a point there that I can work on. If I had a tennis ball with me, I could work on it a lot more. But I'm trying to put as much pressure as possible onto that to roll that out into that glute. So I would recommend using a tennis ball or a small sliotar for your glutes rather than the foam roller. But just to serve a purpose today, this is what we're using. So I'm going to do the other side. So plant the foot, elevate, I turn slightly over onto my side to get near that, and near that glute's tighter than this. It's funny the way the body works, because my quad and the outer hamstring on this side of the body was tighter, but my glute on this side of the body is tighter. So it could be that one is pulling the body one way and the other is trying to compensate to keep me straight. But the body will always find a way to try and find what neutral is, because it likes being there. So if you pull it out of neutral in one way, it's going to try and put you back in the other way. And this is why times when people get injuries fixed, the muscle that wasn't injured sometimes then starts feeling sore, because it's trying to reset itself back to where it should be, sort of back to homeostasis, as we would say. We're going to move on to the back. Don't roll your lower back, ever. And the reason for that is that it's too delicate and it doesn't need rolled out. If you're going to get anything done to the lower back, lie on your front and get somebody to do a couple of knees up the spine, up the muscles on either side of it, but they actually roll it. For me, there's too much pressure on people, and people that have lower back issues don't need to be rolling that lower back. So what I do is I put it to mid-back here. So my lower back's here, there's a gap, I'm on mid-back, and then I hug. Plant the feet. Once I hug, I elevate and roll. So I'm going from mid-back, the sort of mid-upper back. Again, we're going to aim for about 6. And now I'm going to reset my feet, and I'm going to elevate, and I'm going to go from that mid-upper back to upper back, but not the neck. The reason we're hugging is it brings your scapular out of the way, and it opens up the muscles that are around the scapular. If you left your thing flat, so if I was here like this, trying to balance, straight away my scapular's in the way, and you're not getting the muscles because your scapular now has come back and down. When I hug, they're going to fly up and round, so the muscle's going to come up around to here, and it's going to give you that nice open area on the back to allow you to roll it out properly. Now what I do for the lower back is this. I come to mid-back now, and then I hug, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my spine by cracking. So I'm trying to aim, I'm not touching my head to the floor, this big arch, I'm thinking of trying to put my scap to the floor. So I crack back, I roll down to my next vertebrae, same thing, I roll down to my next vertebrae, same thing, I roll down to the next vertebrae, same thing. And that's that. That's your back done. And if you find that one area was particularly funky, you can, again, roll slightly onto your side and focus on that. But the best way to do that is, if you found a point, is to take that tennis ball or the sliotar, put it in a long sock, or put it on the leg of an old used kite, cut that off, because what you can do is go up against the wall, throw it around your back so you can hold on to it, and then find that point, and once you get it against it, bring this arm across, change hands that you're holding that, and then roll it around against the wall, because you can push in and put as much pressure as you want against that wall. We're going to do our lats, which are not comfortable to do, and the lats, like the quads, have a certain point up in here. So where they have the TFL here, there's a point on the lats just where it meets sort of the scap and the arm joint, sort of the chromium joint. Well, no, because that's up here. But right here is this little point that gets really tight when you don't do enough mobility work, and it's going to be nasty to go into. So open that arm up, I'm right onto my side, hand up here, and I'm going to roll down and up for that lat. You don't need a lot of distance to do this. Oh, it's tight. I'm not rolling it up. That's 6, and I'm going to roll down, 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 down. And there's that point. So it drops into it. So in that point down, I'm nearly feeling like a numbness coming up around here. Because it's been a long time since I rolled that. It's horrible. If you're following along, you're doing this by now, you're probably sweating, especially if you're tight. The reason you're sweating is that it's pretty nasty to do if you're tight and you didn't realise you were tight, and you start finding all these points. You realise now why certain areas can be, oh, I don't know why I'm feeling the pain there. It's like, oh, there's why I'm feeling the pain there. And when I came off first, what I did there, if you notice, I was here, taking the weight off my lat with this leg. What I actually did for this here is I changed and did a 90 degree of the bottom leg, because I was able to take a wee bit more off it, because this side's a bit tighter. But when I came off the building sites and started working in this here, when I was actually training in this, is when I first came across foam rolling, when I was reading about it, and I just dropped into that point. I'm going to do 6 now in that point. Coming off the building site, where you're hunched over all day, hammering nails and carrying shit, and it's all on your back. And that's that. I was tight everywhere, even with the kickboxing. I was flexible in that I could kick up and do all that sort of thing, so it was flexible, but actual tightness of the muscles was just ridiculous. And when I started foam roll, I used to finish the session, maybe 15 minutes of foam roll, and I would be drenched because it was just so sore to do. But after a couple of months of doing it, I was freer than I ever was, and any niggles I had actually went away. Pecs. What we're going to do with the pec is that you're going to, again, kind of like the other thigh, you're going to find that angle, turn the roller so that it's facing basically this way, and we're going to roll down from the pec. Obviously females, all you're going to be doing is coming from the top of your shoulder, so you're kind of rolling over that round of the front delt, is all you're going to do. And the reason that's going to get for the pec is that the pec attaches across onto here, which is why people do sort of flies, if you're wondering that there. The only way that fly for the machine or the dumbbells, when they're lying on their back, can actually work your pec is because the pec's attached here, and as you go down it stretches it out and it pulls it back, and then working through that internal. Same with the bench press, that stretch and that push, times people feel it kind of, if they get a strain, they feel it in the bicep. Same with press ups, times people can feel the strain of the press up and that sort of here in the arm and the bicep. The reason for that is that it crosses over onto that bone attachment, and then the bicep attaches across the shoulder as well. So whenever we're doing it, we want to get just slightly on here, so it's a funny area to try and find a position for it. You need to find that there's my full sort of pec here, and my weight now is resting onto this. You can do it against the wall if you need, and just put your hand behind your back and roll it out here. You can put your hand behind your back, but I don't recommend it starting out. I would like that little bit of balance. And all I'm doing is coming across my shoulder, onto my pec, across my shoulder, onto my pec. So I'm not doing the full pec. You can do the full pec as a male, if you do a lot of press-ups and stuff like that. As a female, you can do the upper chest, which isn't actually on the breast tissue, because that's just not going to be comfortable, and I wouldn't recommend it at all. One more. So I'm getting across that shoulder joint there now. So that crossed over my shoulder and then back onto the outer pec to here. Same thing. I'm
down my weight here onto it so that I can cross over. I'll just manipulate the roller until I get it. So I'm onto here and then I'm onto that pick. So I'm just keeping the weight now twisted onto it. Now for the upper pick, it just looks stupid, but basically what you do is you go onto your clavicle and you roll down very slightly and back up, because the muscles are going to come up through here, and so your pecs go this way. The actual muscle themselves. There is no upper and lower pec, but there is the muscles that are around the pec. So your actual chest pectoral muscle is this block of muscle. The fibers run this way. They don't run. There's no upper pec or lower pec, but there are muscles above it and there are muscles below it, which you can roll out. I don't tend to roll the rib cage at all, unless there's something tight, and then you can get a ball and just roll it round and round the serratus. But upper, you basically get here. You hold that pressure and you do that small movement. If you want to add more pressure, again, you can come to here, and that puts a lot more onto it. Niels can do the full pick if you want. That was 6 in that. You don't really need to do much more. Females, clavicle down a little bit to here if you want, if you find that you're really tight. And if that there just seems like it's just not working for you, then you come up against the wall to here. I'll just turn this camera up, sorry. So we come up against the wall, you get your tennis ball again, and then you put your hand behind your back with this, put the tennis ball against the wall, and then you just push in to here. So like that. Same thing with the getting the back. If I was taking this side around the scapular, then you put that tennis ball or that sliotar into a long sock or a tight leg, cut it off, throw it behind you, push yourself against the wall till you find roughly where that point is, grab it here, tug, and then put pressure in and start rolling against that wall. And it's just a free elbow that your physio would do to you. If you're really tight, always see your physio. Last one we're going to do. Other things you can do, guys, you can roll your forearms. If you find that your wrists are tight or anything like that there, and the easiest way to do that, I'll actually show you, is you sit at a kitchen table, put the roller on it, put pressure down, or the tennis ball, and just push down in. Turn it over to the back, do the same thing. Triceps, biceps, I don't really do them too much. If you find that you're tight somewhere in it, then it could be a bigger issue. Soles of the feet is one that I want to do with you. So you can sit and do this here. The good thing about the foam roller is it's cylindrical, so if you find that your arches are dropped a wee bit or anything like that there, or you're just tight, there's hundreds of muscles that attach underneath the bottom of your foot. So if you imagine if those muscles are attached under the bottom of your foot like that, and that is dropping down, your arches are dropping down, and your arch is meant to be like this, as that pushes down in and flattens out, everything that those muscles are attached to up the side of your leg is going to start getting pulled down, which is going to pull the knee joint, which is going to pull your hip joint, which is going to pull in your back, and it's going to leave it that it could be, you're finding that the back is killing you, and when they look into what it is, it's that one of the feet, your arches are down slightly. So you can roll out them muscles. Proper footwear always comes into it, making sure if we're doing a lot of running, that you're changing those runners probably every 2 to 3 months, guys. I know it's an expense, but if you're putting a lot of miles in, then what's protecting your feet needs to be good. So I'm pushing down, I'm rolling down into the sole of that foot. You can do this as well, sitting watching TV. You can just sit and just have it under it, and you can sit for half an hour if you wanted to, just massaging the bottom of that foot and keeping that sort of arc, that cylinder, keeping that cylinder underneath the arc, and just keep it moving. Other side, and then we roll. Put as much pressure as you want on this. Push down in, keep it moving. Right, and then the last one would be, if you're sitting at the kitchen table, you would sit down, put that underneath your arm at 90 degrees, and then you push your arm over on it, push it back on it. You're going to get underneath that forearm, which can be tight from press ups, things like that there. Turn it over, and then you get slightly into it. Just keep it off the bone, and then you sit at the table and roll it back and forward. But that's it. That's the entire thing. Full body, rolled out. I found points now. I know that the outside, that quad on the flat, around just above my knee is tight. I can actually feel that point there now. I know that I'm tight on the outer quad. That TFL's a little bit tight. Glute on the right wasn't too bad. Hamstring on the right was on the outer side leading to the TFL was, or my IT band was tight, and then left glute. So I would say this tightness on my right side is pulling me slightly, which is causing that glute to sort of try and pull me back in. So I know where I'm tight now. I can do a bit more work on this. This one here is a small one, so it's not a big tube. I have ones in the gym which I'm going to have to get, which are slightly larger, which makes it easier for rolling on the surface area. This one, because it's smaller, obviously it doesn't roll as easily on the floor, but I'll get a bigger one and work off that. Hope that helped, guys. Foam rolling is a great manual therapy. So we talk about mobility work, we talk about stretching. Manual therapy is the other key to keeping yourself fresh and keeping your body right. So yeah, getting a foam roller, investing in it. You can get them in Aldi things. They come in where you've got the foam roller that comes with the peanut. And the peanut's what you can use on that lower back. It's basically two balls that have like this here, and there's a small gap in the middle for your spine. And you can stand up against the wall and roll. It allows you to roll up that spine from lower back right up to upper back. So you've got your lacrosse ball or your physio ball. It's a small hard ball. You've got your peanut, which is two with a small gap in the middle, and your foam roller. And using them are brilliant. If I do another one of these, I'll actually bring the peanut in from the gym and the ball, and I'll show you how to use them. But hope you enjoyed that. Have a good Saturday. Keep yourself fresh, and we will talk